Welcome back, everybody. Square the Circle Music Channel. You came back to visit me. I always appreciate that. Gonna do one of those fun little episodes for you tonight. We've done this before. We're gonna do it again. This is that episode where I talk about things I've been spinning a lot. We call it frequent flyers. These are frequent flyers that have been frequenting the turntable. Sometimes stuff that I pull from the bottom shelf and bring it back up, something I haven't seen for a while, haven't spun for a while, maybe something I just want to share with you guys. I got little piles all over the place, and stuff gets hidden, stuff gets forgotten, covered in dust for whatever reason. I have boxes that I put in that closet. I have boxes over here in the coat closet. And sometimes things get stuffed into boxes that get intended for record shows or intended for all sorts of other things. So I like to dig through those and kind of like remember what I have. So yeah, some of that I'm going to pull out, and others I like to pull out that are new stuff. I like to incorporate the two, so it's just not all a whole bunch of like new stuff that's like entering record stores, which all of you can explore all that on your own. But these are just things I try to mix and match, a little bit of the old, a little bit of the new. So I'll quit babbling and I'll just get right into it. Hope you all had a fantastic week. I sure did. So here we go. Beginning tonight with a new group on the scene, not even here in the United States of America. I came across these guys on the magic of the interwebs, and kind of up and comers, pretty cool. From the great country of Poland. Big things going on in Poland these days. That's how I felt when I heard this for the first time. This is a group called Sonatta. Sunatta, I think. Sonatta. Beautiful display, obviously. These dudes are from Poland, and my goodness, they're playing some really, really awesome shit. It's hard rock. It is psychedelic stoner rock. Can get pretty sludgy sometimes. Pretty effing cool. Album's called Burning in Heaven, Melting on Earth. Yeah, like I said, brand new. I just ordered this. I saw it online and listened to it a little bit. Not even familiar with the record label. Not sure what the record label is and where they come from or where they're dealing out of. I don't know if it's being dealt out of Poland or something like that, but these guys are worth checking out. Pretty incredible. If you like anything of that ilk, that kind of stoner rock, kind of psychedelic, almost kind of, it's not dark metal, but it's kind of doomish. I'd say more along the lines of doomish than just kind of psych rock. So, yeah, again, called Sonatta. From Poland. Anybody that likes heavy music, check this shit out. You will really, really like it. So yeah, that's a new one that I recently discovered. I've been playing it a lot, so really, really enjoying it. There's a good chance it may keep its position on that ever rising tide of new artists that are flowing in, coming toward the middle of the year here. It's going to start getting to be a pretty serious battle if any of these bands want to stay on the Major's top 10 list, if you know what I mean. Here's an oldie, but a goodie. This time of year, when things start popping and the sun starts coming up at really, really early times of the day, our natural cycles start waking us up earlier, and our little eyes bloom and blossom like flowers, and the birds are chirping, and it's like 6 a.m. and the sun is up and staring you in the face. And so you force yourself out of bed, you make your coffee, but then you get to enjoy music for a little bit of extra time in the morning. And, sometimes the morning rain, and it's just a perfect time of day and perfect time of year to be spinning this type of music. These soft, subtle tinkle tunes, I like to call them, of course, by our friend Brian Eno. This is the part 4 in the ambient series, just titled On Land. I always forget about this one. I wouldn't say it's the most forgotten in that series of 4 ambient albums that he did. I think the third one, the Laraji album, usually kind of gets pushed aside. Not quite as accessible as the rest of his ambient works, at least this 4-part series that I'm talking about. The first and second part and this 4th part generally are considered to be quite a bit more accessible. Laraji stuff, just gets to be a little bit kind of, just kind of busy and just a little bit much for your kind of garden variety listener. All those interesting, Middle Eastern sounds and instruments and rhythms and concepts. A lot of people, don't necessarily latch onto that as easy as they do these, Westerner, contemporary, soft, subtle sounds. But I've been spinning this one a lot recently. I think this was the first one that he intended to be mastered quadraphonically, which is pretty cool. Sometimes I'll hook everything up to my 4-way and run some stuff on either end. And actually, I think there's a diagram on the back of this, and it was intended to have only one solo speaker set directly behind the listener, and not in each corner. So not quadraphonically, but still like in a surround sound style. Anyway, that kind of technology and that kind of idea of listening was still kind of new in this era, in the early 80s, when they were kind of experimenting with this. But I love the sounds of this, all this. You're getting a lot more kind of nature sounds out of this, more so than his first and second in the ambient series, where, incorporating the second one, of course, he invited Harold Budd to come play, and the first one was just very, very minimalistic, very atmospheric, just strictly piano and synth. This one, you're hearing all kinds of interesting, there's like interesting nature sounds, waterfalls, rainfall, trees whispering the, Scytherism and things like that, and you hear like random like bear growling, knocking, all kinds of weird stuff going on in the background. It gets to be a little intimidating sometimes because you're not really sure like what's going on, but great listen. I've been enjoying a lot lately, so if anybody loves that type of stuff, make sure you get out. And this is available everywhere now. It's very affordable. It's under $20 most places, the reissue. Of course, the heightened popularity of this man and all of his albums, it's been great for a lot of us who are appreciators and lovers of this style of music. So it's affordable, it's accessible, it's everywhere. Go out and get the part 4 in the ambient series. All right, moving along. What's next here? Oh yeah. So this one, kind of light years from where we just were. This one I like to put on when I'm feeling the blood pumping a little bit, and I want to get it pumping even more up into the brain. These guys, masterminds of all kinds of just insano hard rock, math rock. Just, stellar on their instruments, and just stellar songwriting. Instrumental, crazy ass math rock. These guys are called Battles. The album's called Mirrored. So, not a lot I can really say about this. Any of you folks that like shit that's pretty edgy, that is, sprinkled with some punk rock and sprinkled with some hippity hop and just fucking crazy electronic beats and, acoustic instrumentations. This shit's all over the fucking map. It's intense. It's very intense. So if you like your rock and roll, peppered with some kind of really intense moments and lots of insane, cool rhythmic shit. If you happen to be, a rhythm player of an instrument, a drummer, maybe a bass guitarist, or whatever. Any instrument can be heavily rhythmic. But yeah, if you especially appreciate intense rhythms, polyrhythmic, really cool stuff, yeah, check these guys out. Battles. Been spinning this a lot lately. I'll come home on my lunch break, and sometimes, if I sit down and spin something, that isn't like this, I'm getting older, and I tend to nod off even on my short lunch break. So sometimes I have to put stuff like this on, eat my sandwich, and do back, and just like go off crazy cool stuff. Keeps my brain, motivated, keeps my body motivated, keeps the blood pumping. It's good shit. Check it out. Yes. Didn't mention, that was an older release. 2013, I think. Something like that. But yeah, I discovered this years ago. And it's been a lot of fun ever since. It's a little bit more recent, 2016. But here's one that just came out a couple weeks ago. This one was dancing around in the new arrivals section in my record store. Shout out to House of Records on 13th Avenue in Eugene, Oregon. And I just, how it works. You flipping through stuff, never heard of it, never seen it. You see the art. And the art is, wow, very captivating, very intriguing. And that's immediately, I latch on. I see this band, they're called Low Talker. Album is called A Comedy of Errors. Just was released a couple weeks ago. Really interesting, pretty subtle, kind of folky, kind of a little bit of everything. I'm hearing, what's the name of that group? There was this really cool group that came out called Sid Arthur. Kind of like a English psych rock, folk, hard to explain. Sid Arthur, not the name of anybody in the band. I think it's a clever British play on words. You know how British and their accent and the way it works. Sid Arthur. That would be kind of a play on words. The name Sid Arthur, if you say it fast, it comes out sounding like Siddhartha. Because the whole thing is kind of thematic, like I said, it's kind of a psych rock, hippie kind of cool folk album. I think that's kind of like a shout out homage to Siddhartha, the Buddha, and, all that hippie shit. Pretty cool. Anyway, that this band kind of reminds me of that. Subtle folk, tinges of psychedelia, really cool sound effects, really cool instrumentations. Kind of hard to put your finger on, kind of hard to explain. I entreat all of you to check them out. It's worth a spin. Always on the hunt for new, cool, interesting stuff, and that's what happens. You just got to take a gamble. This was a happy discovery. I'm really happy with it. It's fun to listen to. Yeah, so we'll see if it gets to stick in with the big shots and make it all the way to the top 10, the end of the year best of 2021. We'll see. I'm gonna get a little bit more familiar with it. I'm gonna take it for a few more drives, but yeah, it's a really great listen. So check it out, Low Talker, A Comedy of Errors. Another older, fantastic album. God, I love these guys so much. And I'm always talking about, well, not always, but I've mentioned in the past subgenres and names of subgenres and how people pigeonhole and how people use ridiculous terminology of the day, And I was going off about the term post-rock and how it really isn't a descriptor of anything. And the whole post, proto, this, that, slapping all kinds of goofy adjectives on, I don't know. I'm trying not to be too, uh, I don't know, judgmental, and I'm trying not to be too, uh, you know, too much of a jerk to people that like to use all types of names and labels, but sometimes it's just rock and roll. Who said that? Was that like a fucking Kiss lyric or something like that? I don't know. It's only rock and roll, but I like it. I like it. Yes, I do. It's fucking Mick Jagger. Sorry. These guys, they're fucking rock and roll. And because they happen to be instrumental, and because they happen to, well, primarily, mostly instrumental, and because they happen to use, you know, stylistically, guitar, synth, stuff that kind of like brings up certain atmospheres and sound, they get lumped into that ridiculous category. It was like, well, you could really just say that these guys were fucking the creators of that. They kind of started all that shit. They've been around for fucking ever, since before that silly name of a subgenre or whatever you want to call it was used. Before post-rock was post, when it was just rock. I don't know. I'm talking about Mogwai. Everyone needs to be familiar with this band. This album's called, what's it called? Happy Music for Happy People? Yeah, Happy Songs for Happy People. This came out, I think, in like '96 or something like that. It was one of their first albums. This is a re-release. Oh, pardon me. It's actually later than I thought. It's 2003. Some of their earliest stuff, of course, in the mid to late '90s, which I adore. But this one, really solid. It's kind of like my go-to for Mogwai all the time. I really like Hardcore Will, or what is it? Hardcore Will Never Die, But You Will. It's the title of their album from like a couple years back, 2006 or 2007. Another fantastic album by them. I mean, they have like 20 albums. They do soundtrack, you know, film music now. They do all kinds of great shit. This band is just outside of the realm of genre and outside of the realm of all the hundreds of weird descriptor words that people can use. They're just rock and roll, and they're their own kind of flavor, their own brand. Yeah, love the shit out of these guys. And I've been playing this one a lot recently because I just am really in that mood. Really feeling like kind of the softer, subtle stuff this time of year in the springtime, and you know, the instrumental, and I'm getting old. I like it a little bit softer these days, I guess. I don't know. Everybody check out Mogwai. They're fan-fucking-tastic. These guys. Whew. New discovery to me. This is not a new release. It's a recent-ish release. But I just discovered these guys. These guys are on that fantastic label that I love so dearly that I just discovered a few years ago. I came across this artist, this folk pop rock artist from Norway, and the individual himself and the band I'm about to talk about are from Trondheim, Norway, where this label is that they're associated with, called Crispin Glover Records. Here's another Crispin Glover Records outfit. These guys, holy cow, they're called Soup. This album's called Remedies. It came out, I want to say, in 2019. I don't recall exactly, please forgive me, but it's fairly recent. Sometime I'd say between 2017 and 2019, because I was researching it and I was like, oh, do they have a more recent release? And understandably so. The amount of time and energy and effort they must spend pouring into their art form, it is apparent with what you're hearing, what you're seeing with this album. One of my favorite discoveries as of late. Man, these guys really, they blow me away. They incorporate just about everything you can think of that's within the vein of kind of roots rock and roll. When I say roots rock and roll, that rolls off the tongue really improperly, because it's like, yeah, I mean, everything in rock and roll is practically blues based, but it's not really It's obviously not a blues rock album. I'm not really into the blues, but when I say roots rock, I just mean kind of like the staples of rock and roll that just really like make it what it is, and it incorporates all of those things, and also all types of experimental, and like I'm hearing all kinds of like alt rock stuff, like from when rock and roll was really kind of metamorphosizing in the late 80s, all throughout the early and mid 90s, when you have all that great alt rock sound. I immediately started getting the sounds that I love dearly, and that I, from from the region that I'm from, the Pacific Northwest, which is so ironic and cool because these guys are a world away, and they're probably my age. They're probably maybe even younger, but a world away, from Norway. And these guys, they sound like, I immediately got like this, late, or excuse me, early 2000s sound of what Built to Spill was doing. They didn't sound like that in the 90s. They were much more organic and raw sounding. And then into like the 2000s, Built to Spill started getting like a really interesting, different kind of like refined, psychedelic kind of sound. That's what these guys like, kind of all those great alt psych bands that have kind of an interesting, goofy kind of twist, like the Flaming Lips comes to the top of my head immediately too, because I hear a ton of inspiration from the Flaming Lips, and not as like a goofy kind of like devastated sound as like Wayne Coyne and company. Like, don't get me wrong, I love Flaming Lips. But you understand what I mean, like when I say that kind of like devastated Wayne Coyne sound, just kind of like whiny, everything is kind of a bummer, everything went wrong, and that's kind of what I mean about like that kind of Doug Marsh, Built to Spill, like spilled my milk again. Oh, you don't really get that with these guys. It's more of a straight up psychedelic, very like empowering sound, and a very celebratory sound. There's all kinds of interesting jazzy moments going on. Guy plays like, upright bass in a few moments of this. There's some really great like symphonic orchestrated moments. 2 of the tracks on here are upwards of 11 to 12 minutes long. There's 5 tracks. And like the track 3 is just like a little interlude with some church organ, some big church organ kind of stuff, and man, just takes you on a really great journey. Really hyping this shit up, guys. Everybody check out the band Soup. They're fucking phenomenal. Album's called Remedies. Incredible artwork. Super bummed this one. I don't know what happened. I bought this sucker brand new from Crispin Glover Records. Love them. But they kind of dropped the ball on this one. They put it in a protective, sealed polyurethane thingamajig. But I think like right before whoever worked that day in Trondheim was getting a little bit drunk toward the end or something, and like must have just like opened up the little polyurethane and took like the last bit of their beer and just went boop, and just it's fucking soaked all the way through, and there's like probably the worst water damage I've ever had on an album. And I bought this son of a bitch brand fucking new. It cost me $50. And it came to me like this. Like someone just fucking dumped a beer in it, wrapped it in cardboard, sent it to Oregon. Like, whatever. Worth every penny still. The LP was not damaged. Was not. No water damage, beer damage, no warping, no nothing. It was, the LP luckily was unhindered. Just the jacket got all fucked. But, oh well, shit happens, right? Everybody check that album out. It's really good. All right. Going back to some older stuff, some classic stuff. And like I said, really, really enjoying the weather and atmosphere of the springtime. I go out every morning, I do my yard work, and I put this stuff on and drive the neighbors crazy. This is some of my very, very, very favorite stuff. So I wanted to share this with you guys. Really great box set I picked up years and years and years ago. This is a series of 3 LPs in a box set of all private issues. So we're talking like, you know, unreleased. This is, I mean, released, but only in private issue form. So never on any major label. And it's all independent artists, new age stuff from like American artists from 1985 or something like that through modern day. Oh, way older. 1950 through 1990. Yeah, it's called I Am the Center. So we're talking some pretty hippy dippy, pretty hippy dippy shit. But I fucking love this stuff. I talk about all those soft, subtle tinkle tunes that I love so dearly. This is the creme de la creme of that. Me being, you know, born and raised between Springfield and Eugene, Oregon, neighboring cities. I mean, they're basically the same city. Hippieville, USA. I mean, this is just kind of like, you know, everyone's folks had this shit on. This was on NPR all day. This type of music, just, you know, new age classics. We're talking, you know, there's tons of like Laraji on here. What is his name? Very famous Stephen Halpern. Yeah, all kinds of incredible piano artists, guitar artists, you know, acoustic stuff, lots of, you know, synth blasting everywhere. Way cool. Yeah. It doesn't get any more nerdy than this shit. I fucking love this, and this is just kind of constant with me. It's just a go-to. It's a standard, you know, when I'm never sure, like, oh, what do I want to spin? Yeah. This is standby. Always on standby. I Am the Center. Fantastic box set. Very affordable. You can get the box set for $40. And this is, you know, 100 hours of listening time. It's, so anyone that appreciates, you know, soft jazz, electronica, new agey, hippy dippy shit, get this. It's well worth every penny. So, yeah, just wanted to bring this out and show it to you guys. It's one of my favorites. All right, getting down to the last little bit of it. Thanks again for joining me, everybody. If you haven't had a chance yet, please like and subscribe to my channel. Tell your friends about it. Share it with somebody else. Post it on social media. It'd be fun to kind of like spread this around. I think I have maybe 30 subscribers now. That's pretty sweet. So, you know, maybe you could be number 35. Lucky 35, who knows? So, thanks again, everybody. This is always, like I said, a lot of fun for me. Even with only a couple subscribers and a couple watchers. It's very fulfilling and it's very fun. I love sharing music. I especially appreciate you guys listening to my opinion. So yeah, look forward to more fun from Mage. Here's a funny and fun little bit that I'll bring up. Because I so scornfully was kind of spewing my unpopular opinion in the last couple of episodes here and there. I have an entire episode now dedicated to that forum of my bullshit unpopular opinion. But then that unpopular opinion of mine also likes to kind of jump out and kind of like interject at other moments, and I've made it abundantly clear my distaste for kind of like backyard blues rock, kind of boring ass dad rock kind of stuff that we were all kind of raised on, part of. If you're from anywhere USA and you have an uncle, you know, and you just were kind of born and raised in the last 40 years, you know, or whatever, it just kind of became a part of popular culture. And just a lot of it, 95% of it, is boring as fuck. It is uninventive and unsatisfying. does absolutely nothing for me. But hey, that's just my opinion, man. So yeah, I was going off about that, and then I got to bring something like this out, and it's just like one of my favorite fucking albums of the last 15 years. Um, could be probably up there on my top 20. And it's just, yeah, it's all inspired by the blues. So, talking about Black Rebel Motorcycle Club, the album Howl. Not just blues. Yes, there's like huge moments and huge inspirations and tons and tons and tons of blues going on in this album, but I get so much more love and good stuff from this in the realm of the spiritual stylings. I'm talking about gospel, spiritual stylings, folk, heavy on the folk. You know, I'm talking like, you know, I get huge like Townes Van Zandt and like Pete Seeger and like, you know what I mean? Like that real like roots Americana folk, spiritual kind of like that type of American blues rock kind of feel. And this is an album that just kind of feeds my soul in a lot of ways. Love the shit out of it. It'll make its way sometimes down into like, you know, the dusty underbelly. And I kind of forget about it. I forget about it for, this time, I don't think I brought this thing out in a couple years. Seriously. Sometimes albums need that. Sometimes people need that. Sometimes you got to put stuff away, and the memories and the feelings associated with it need to kind of take a nap, you know, and maybe just kind of take a little bit of a break. This has some pretty sensey, touchy-feely things for me. Time and place in my life when I was a bit of a ne'er-do-well. I had some pretty serious issues personally that I was battling through. I wasn't treating the people around me very well. But there's also some really glorious moments associated with this album. I won't get too deep, won't get too personal about it, but I think you know what I mean. And just the lyrical content of this can explain away a lot of that. You know, it's very simpatico, you know what I mean? Like, not saying that the music influenced my behavior or vice versa or whatever, you know what I mean? Things are what they are. But this is one of those albums that just kind of like harbored a place in time in my life. And I'm sure it did for hundreds of thousands of other people too. But what a gem. What a masterpiece. I think a lot of people will agree with me on that one. These guys just came out of fucking left field for me. My buddy Nick, who you've all been introduced to, and he's been on my channel, and he's coming back. He introduced me to these guys. And maybe, I don't know, maybe he did or maybe he didn't. I think maybe I had caught wind and heard these guys somewhere, but then he had, of course, he's like that to me. He reinforced, oh, Nick listens to these guys? Okay, cool. So they're great, obviously. But he was the one that kind of like reminded me, and I kind of thought about it because we, chit-chat back and forth, and I'm always making fun of bullshit blues rock, and that's probably a lot of what drew him to these guys, because there's lots of elements of blues that he loves, and me too. I don't hate everything about blues rock, but I gravitated toward this stuff for a different reason, and we kind of always meet in the middle, and we kind of chit chat about it, and yeah, it always makes for some good banter. So anybody that is unaware of that album, Howl by Black Rebel Motorcycle Club, rush out and get it. I think it came out right around 2003 or 2004, I want to say. They have numerous other albums, but that one is their best. So get it. A couple more to talk about here, and then I'll leave you guys alone. Um, Once again, thanks for chatting with me tonight. This one was a really fun little clever happenstance. Just came across it like I'm one of those guys. I come across stuff on social media, sometimes adverts on Facebook and whatever the fuck, and they know how to get me sometimes, and I've been ripped off before. Um, but this one was a good one, and I saw it and I was like, man, that is right up my fucking alley. And so I had to buy it. And I'm glad I did. So this is a new release. It's called Numero 95. The packaging is pretty awesome. Pulls out like a standard floppy disk or a hard disk or whatever, like circa early 90s, when all we had in the world was these like little Apple computers. And yeah, I won't get into the kitschy retro style art, humor about the whole thing, but the music, it is a compilation album. I've never heard of any of these artists, and I like that. And it just reads like just a nerd novel all the way through and through. This is stuff, just soft jazz, reminiscent of all of those artists that you would hear coming out of, NPR and stuff like that in the early 90s. We're talking soft jazz, we're talking not new agey, it's not like really, really fluffy, crunchy, hippie shit like what I brought out earlier with that box set. This is more along the lines of kind of your smooth jazz, like Rippingtons and Pat Metheny and stuff like that. Like, this is like very, right down that kind of avenue. Really fun, really great. Brings back a lot of memories for me. This was when I was like in high school, middle school, high school, and so I was just like getting into like fusion music and jazz and Latin jazz and easy jazz and stuff like that. And it was, I had to hide it. I had to hide it from everybody I knew. This is the early 90s we're talking about, early 90s and mid 90s. Everyone was, listening to punk and metal and all kinds of crazy shit, I'm like walking down the street going to high school in 1994 wearing a Rage Against the Machine t-shirt, but in my headphones I'm like listening to Pat Metheny. It was interesting kind of dichotomy I had going on in my head. But I was a music lover, You're allowed to love everything. And a lot of people didn't get that about me. But anyway, this type of stuff, I love this kind of stuff. And so, like I said, cool jazz of 1995, Numero 95, compilation album. I've never heard of any of these artists, so y'all should everyone should check it out. It's really fucking great. If you like jazz and you like kind of goofy homage, kind of retro humor, I don't think it's really meant to be humorous. I just think it was kind of a clever, boy, they got me, whoever, the marketing genius of this fucking company. And it's really fun. So it was $20. It was less than $20. And they got it shipped to me. Yeah, so check it out. It's really good. Recent release, just came out just a couple months ago. All right, I'll call it a night. I'll stop babbling at you guys. But this has been, frequent flyers, stuff that it has been frequenting the table, and some old stuff. And of course, I like to introduce some of the newer spins, and the stuff I've been coming across. This is the last one. This one's really, 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 really good. Just came out. You may have heard of these guys before. I had never heard of them. And I had a lot of people kind of like looking at me sideways, like, what? You've never heard of them? I'm like, man, I haven't. They didn't put out an album for 10 years. 10 years ago, I don't know what the fuck I was doing. I wasn't like actively searching out new music. I was too busy getting fucking wasted. But really glad I discovered these guys on the Relapse label. This album's called, the band is called Genghis Tron. Really funny, clever, cool name. The album's called Dream Weapon, just released. Beautiful, beautiful cover artwork. I love the colors. I love the scheme, the idea, the picture. Interesting, like sunken architecture. This is all hand drawn, pencil form, architecture, sketch art. I love this shit. I love this type of art. Just beautiful. This album being released by this band, I've never heard of them. I guess a lot of people have. Being released on the Relapse label, you would assume, oh, cool, smash fucking metal hard rock band. And this album doesn't ring like a metal album at all. Immediately upon spinning this, it's like, man, it's a synthwave album. It's like a dark wave album. Really cool, really fucking cool. But tons of, acoustic instruments, not acoustic, but I mean like electronic guitar, bass, acoustic drums, all incorporated with heavy synth. So it's not all synth, and it's not all like what you would expect out of like a synthwave band or a dark wave band, just being like tons and tons of like synth just like driving at you, just kind of like piercing your eyeballs. There's some really fantastic fucking hard heavy metal instrumentation. Their fucking drummer is out of this fucking world. Just amazing. Just reminds me so much of the drummer from not Avenged Sevenfold, like not that technical, that dude that died. Just powerhouse, man, just all over the place, and just really intricate, crystal clear drumming. The instrumentations at time, the whole band, just kind of like reminds me sometimes of that band Haken. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. I think they're British, but kind of math rock, intense metal. I think it's Haken. I heard that album they have called Thor for the first time a couple years ago. I was just like, that's what this reminds me of. Just super fucking intense, really awesome. At times I'm getting like tons of 90s vibes, like of what was really great in the early and mid 90s with like the industrial sound music scene, like what Nine Inch Nails was doing, and just like this is kind of taking that and really kind of like pushing it into the future and making it a little more kind of like synth pop, synth wavy. Oh dude, just super fucking cool. Just imagine like if the band Filter was even more proficient on their instruments and got so much better at their instruments and just like kept making the kind of music they were making in 1996, like, and Filter just kept going, and like bands like Fear Factory and that kind of shit, you know what I mean? Pigface and just all those crazy, like Ministry, just crazy 90s awesome industrial smash bang shit, but mixed with really kind of beautiful synthwave moments, like really uplifting and more of kind of like a, major key, kind of a positive kind of a sound coming out of it. Really excellent vocal work, soft and beautiful voice, and of course there's obviously some screamo in the background incorporated in there, but it's never overwhelming and it's never taking away from the overall effect of the music. Yeah, so far, this one's getting 9 out of 10 stars for me in the last few weeks. I just picked this up about a month ago. I think it was only released maybe 4 months ago at the most. This one's headed right way to be on my top 10 list of best of the year so far. We'll see what happens. There's a lot of the year left, but this one's got a real great spot so far, sitting on that ladder. So really impressed by these guys, and having never heard of them, it's like it really pushes all the good buttons, tickles all my naughty parts, if you know what I mean. So yeah, everybody check out Gangstron. Gangstron's Dream Weapon, recently released. Really fucking good. All right, everybody. I want to thank you all again for joining me here at the Square of the Circle Music Channel. This has been episode 2 in this series we're calling Frequent Flyers. Hope you all had a good time. Like I said, thanks again for joining me. Keep spinning your records. Keep going to your record store. Give them all your money. Tell them your name. And make sure they know where you live. And yeah, we'll keep this ball rolling. Everybody get your COVID vaccinations. Everybody call your grandma. And I love each and every one of you. Peace be with you.